I watched it this morning.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
And you stayed awake this time, right?
Nope.
You didn't?
Sure didn't.
Oh my God. Are you fucking serious?
I'm serious. I fell asleep
Hold
on the
on.
couch again. I watched this movie 3 times.
All right,
Oh my God.
Hold on. Hello. Welcome to Pot of the Dead. I'm your host, Nicholas, and with me, as always, are the beautiful ladies, Stephanie and Natasha.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
So you fucking fell asleep to this movie 3 times.
Yes. I actually, so the first time Drew had watched it, and I woke up in the middle of him watching it after I had already fallen asleep. And then I watched it for homework last week, fell asleep. So I knew I needed to finish it and rewatch it. So I did that today, fell asleep, woke back up, rewound it, finished it.
All
So
right.
that's what, four
Oh my
viewings?
gosh. Okay. Yeah.
Four viewings for one time through.
I don't know if that hits well for this movie if you fell asleep 4 times.
that does not bode well for
No.
what you're going to give this movie, I feel.
No, I don't think so either. That's hilarious. Yeah.
So anyway, the movie that we watched for this week is The Night House. Came out in 2020, directed by David Bruckner. What are your girls' history with this film prior to watching it?
Mine. The funny thing is, one of the taglines is like, "Don't watch before bed," and I was like, it lulled me to sleep multiple times.
It is a very quiet movie, I guess.
It is. Yeah. We had actually talked about wanting to see this movie. We had saw a preview or like a brief clip of something a couple years ago for this movie. And I was like, that looks kind of cool. And the actual preview doesn't share a whole lot, but it just looks neat enough. And I was like, that's actually a horror movie I would probably be down to watch. So Nick added it to this. So I was like, I'll watch it. And it was definitely different than I expected. That's for sure. So.
Yeah, I came across this movie specifically through the podcasts and stuff and that I listened to. They like kind of mentioned it and it was getting some buzz and all this stuff. And I knew the name David Bruckner previously, but I couldn't place it until I started doing research here. And I was like, oh, I've seen actually a decent amount of his stuff. So he's responsible for the movie called The Ritual that came out in 2017.
That sounds familiar.
He did the new Hellraiser that they put out on Hulu.
Is that the one you watched last year?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
He did a segment on the original VHS anthology series back in 2012. He came back and did another one for the new one that came out this year, VHS 85, which is the only one I haven't seen yet. And then he also did an episode or 2 on the Creep Show television series that they did on Shudder. So I've seen a lot of his stuff, but like the name wasn't just like a big name to me until like this. And I was just like, that name sounds fucking familiar. So I started looking back and I was like, gotcha. Okay, I have seen this guy. It's one of those kind of directors that it's not like super big visual like cues that you're like, oh, I know this. This feels similar, because if you would have told me that The Ritual, Hellraiser, and The Night House are all directed by the same guy, I wouldn't have believed you, because they're all pretty different in my opinion.
I mean, the Hellraiser stuff, yes, but like at the same time, you can kind of feel the influence a little bit if you know that after watching this, don't you think?
If you've seen the new Hellraiser, not really.
Oh, okay.
No, not like the Clive Barker one from the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see the similarities there, but the new one is like pretty out there. It's different.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't watch that. Oh, I haven't seen, I've only seen clips of Hellraiser. I've never watched any movie in its full.
Yeah, same here. That's the one with Pinhead, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I guess
that's all I know about it.
I'm hearing. Hold on. I'm hearing.
I think we just got that added to the list.
I think so too.
I was having some issues. I don't want to say issues, but I was having some. What do I put in? Like, there's like one pocketed spot for December that I wasn't sure, and I think we're gonna watch Hellraiser in December.
Really?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Considering everything else that we're gonna watch, we'll mix a a legit classic in there. Maybe we'll see.
Okay. Yeah. I want to, like, I know it's a love story. I knew that. And then, like, I knew that it's definitely interdimensional. And I knew a lot of that because you just told me a lot about it. But I haven't actually actively watched any significant amount of those movies. So, yeah,
it's pretty dope. I'm not sure how you girls will take it or whatever because it's an 80s horror film.
Yeah, those bode depending on what they are. So some of them are funny. If they're funny, I think they hit a little bit better. But if they're funny. I know they're not.
This doesn't seem like it would be.
No, it's not. So if it's gonna hit like serious, as long as it's better than The Exorcist, I think I'll be okay.
Easily better than The Exorcist. It's actually like the way that we'll just make this real quick because we gotta talk about the Night House. But Hellraiser's like weirdly sleazy. Like it's like because it's about kind of
it's about sex, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely like into sex and stuff like that, and an affair and all this stuff, and it just got like this like sleaziness to it, and like Vaseline over the lens just has like this like mood to it. So I'm down to watch it for the most part. The only ones I am not looking forward to watching, if you're gonna make us do this, because I'm not a fan, is like the Freddy Krueger stuff. That is just not my jam. It's not my thing. God damn it.
I mean, I've seen Freddy versus Jason. That movie was just kind of ridiculous because of what it was. But like, I would much rather watch like Friday the 13th, or is that what I'm thinking of? Yeah. And Jason movies. Yeah. Those versus the Freddy movies. I don't know what it is about him that is just not my jam.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's got their slasher icon that they gravitate towards. I mean, like you girls are more about Ghostface.
Ghostface.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
I don't know who mine is, to be honest. I kind of bounce in between. Anyway, let's go back to the Night House. So, the Night House, it's
not a slasher movie. So guys, we're not talking about that kind of stuff unless
this movie, like it's horror adjacent. Like this is like, I think that this is like just a straight up like ghost story thriller kind of movie. Like it doesn't.
I hardly see a thriller in it. It's more, I saw it more like a love story, like a drama.
Yeah. But the thriller aspect of the mystery and all that stuff without giving anything away. And I'm trying to think. I think all the violence is implied except for one scene.
Right.
Kind of. Mm-hmm. It's a horror. I would say is horror mystery a genre? Like I don't know if that is because that's what it feels like. It feels like it like what Tasha was saying. She's fallen asleep in this movie like 4 times. It is a slow paced movie, but I did not find myself bored in any capacity when we watched this. I was riveted through the whole thing, and not in a sense like on the edge of my seat, but just like curious to see how it was going to unfold because it is so different, and I had no idea going in what we were going to be watching essentially.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, so was I. Like, I wanted to know what was going to happen, but I think it was the pacing, the scoring was really quiet. A lot of those things just drifted me off. But, like, and that's why I kept going back. Even if we didn't have to watch it, I still think I would go back to finish it just to see how it played out.
Yeah. It definitely.
Because I had a lot of questions going into it.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I like this movie is because of where it ended up going, because like we were going through the movie and I just kept like looking at stuff. I was like, this is what I think is going to happen, but if they go this other route, I'm going to fucking hate this movie. Like,
but he was right. He was completely right about what was going to happen. So like, he was like, this is what's going to happen. And then that is what happened. And I am, for the first time in like forever, was like, I have no fucking clue. And I'm like, maybe this. And he was like, no, I think this. And I'm like, that's true. That's smart. So like it hit well. It
wasn't like, I know that this is going to happen. I was like, they're setting it up to be this. And if they do like what I think they're doing, that's fucking cool. Cause that's that's on my side of the court. Like that's where I'm about. But like, I was like, but if it's just going to be your random slasher, like kind of thing, I'm just going to be like, this movie sucks.
Yeah. I mean, if they didn't play it like they did, I think it would have not hit like it, the ending wouldn't have hit like it did. And so it wouldn't have ended well, but obviously we already know this. Like I liked the movie. I also liked, it was an hour and 46 minutes. It was rated R. So like it wasn't one of those movies that kind of had to pull back. I feel like it did what it wanted to do, and it wasn't lacking in that. It is a slower paced movie, though. That is for sure. But it's definitely one of those ones you have to pay attention to every little thing because, but I think it does a really good job, though, at kind of pausing at the places that you should pay attention because you have to notice them. Like, figures or little bits or little pieces here, and I liked that a lot about this movie.
I don't think that it overdid it either when it came to like foreshadowing stuff. Like there's like certain things that like they like lean on a little bit, but it wasn't like we're going to show you something. I don't think they
foreshadowed really that much at all.
They did, and when we get past the spoiler warning, I'll kind of point some stuff out, but like they would show something, but then like the next scene they wouldn't then just use it. Like it would be like halfway through the movie, maybe, and you'd be like, "Oh fuck, I forgot about that thing," and that's a proper use.
Yeah, it's not leading you right into the next scene. Correct. Yeah, okay.
But you were talking about the scoring, Tasha, how it was scored and everything. I don't know who exactly scored it, but there is a very specific song that is used in this movie repeatedly.
Over and over again. Yeah.
And I really like it. So I ended up looking it up. It's by a couple, Richard and Linda Thompson. It came out in like the late 70s, and the song's called The Cavalry Cross. When I initially started it, it does not sound the same because it's like after 30 seconds or so into the song, it kicks into where you hear it in the movie multiple times. And like, I was like, I don't know. And then it hit it and I was like, oh yeah, this is that fucking song.
Cool.
So
Ben Lovett scored the movie.
Okay. Ben Lovett. Right on. I don't remember much of the score, to be honest. Like it just it was your run of the mill. Like the sound design in it was good. Like when it wanted to be quiet, it was quiet. When it wanted to be tense, it was tense.
I think this movie, it just hits quiet most of the time. Right. Like it's one
quiet
of those movies.
Slow.
Yeah. It's like very quiet. And then I noticed, because I put this in my notes throughout it, when it's going to be loud, it is intentionally loud and almost in a like trying to give you that jump scare almost feel. And not the score itself isn't doing that. It's the sounds that it's bringing out. So it's not like that, like slasher sound you would hear or something like that. It's like very much like wind chimes being abrasive or banging of a door or things like that. So like, or a gunshot, you're going to get those. That's going to break up the quietness of the movie because I feel like we've watched quite a few movies that have like this theme behind it where it's very quiet. Like The Witch was like that, and then that Hush was like that. Strangers is like that. Yeah, we watched a lot of those.
It basically like forces you to lean in almost. Like, you know, like some stuff's going on and it kind of like gets its hooks into you, and then it like settles down and you're like, all right, wait, what's going on? And it like lulls you into this comfort to then kind of be like, and here's something happening now. I'm like, here's something. And you're just like, oh shit, okay, right on. Let's keep going down this rabbit hole or whatever. So,
and I would much rather prefer a movie do it that way, where it's like natural sounds or like environmental sounds versus like a song or like whatever, like a melody to get you into that, because then like I feel like it's more immersive than like waiting for the song to kick in and then you're like, oh, I know something's gonna come, you know.
I absolutely hate that when like the music starts to swell before something, and then and they do it the same way every time. They didn't do it this movie, but it'll like swell and then it's a false, and then it's a swell, then it's false, and then on the third time, swell, there's a guy behind the door, and it's just like, by
that you're already bored with it.
Yeah,
that doesn't do it for me. You gotta be better with your spooks than that, man.
Okay, so where are we at on this with our budget? Did we look that up?
Yeah, I'm blown away by this, and I had to dig and dig and dig. What do you girls think the budget for this movie was?
When did it come out?
2020.
Yeah.
2020.
Ooh.
I'm so bad with money.
I didn't believe this when I saw it. I had to find it on multiple sources and multiple articles. It wasn't just like readily available on IMDb or anything like that.
Okay.
So you had to because it was higher than you expected or lower than you expected?
Lower. I'm not 100% sure of the validity of this, but yeah. So.
Okay.
$10 million.
$10 million.
I'm going to go, if you're saying it's lower than what it was, and we just watched a movie that was like less than $100,000, I about fell on the floor for that one. I'm going to say $250,000.
Okay. So The Void was like $82,000.
Yeah, that we know of.
Yeah. And this might be playing in the same ball field because everything I found says $50,000.
What?
I don't understand.
What?
Everything I saw.
That's not possible. There's
not
with that much camera work.
I am looking at it right now. Budget USD 50 comma 000.
Did the actors get paid like that?
I have no fucking clue. Everywhere I looked, that's what it said.
50,000?
I don't know.
50,000.
Did somebody forget to put a zero in there somewhere?
Right.
Maybe, but like I'm saying, like I had to look in different articles where they were like talking about it and stuff because it wasn't listed anywhere, and I ended up finding it on superstarsbio.com. It broke the movie down like each actor and like what they were attached to, all this stuff, and yeah, they say that it's 50 grand. So somebody's hiding money somewhere.
Well, that, or they had somebody who does special effects and didn't charge anything, or that's their job and they were part of this movie and they were like, I'm just going to donate my time. Like, I think that's what happened with like The Void. It was a lot of time donation. I'm wondering if that's this, but if you have to think about though, this movie, other than it's weird for me it being so low because of the special effects that they had to add in. But like it takes place in one place. Well, it doesn't really do. I mean, there's a couple other like blips that, you know, she visits,
but also
wherever. But
also another thing though is that we're not thinking about is like a way to offset your budget and stuff is if all the people involved in this are taking a percentage afterwards.
Oh, that's true.
That doesn't equate into your budget.
Okay.
But I still have a hard time. Like, this is a beautifully shot movie. Like when I saw that, I was like, there's no fucking way. Like there's like some camera tricks in here and stuff that I was like really like caught off guard by, that I was like, what the fuck? Specifically some shit with hands that I was pretty interested in, that I was just like, I haven't seen that in a long time, and I thought they did it really well.
Yeah, they did.
But so on a supposed $50,000 budget, which I have a hard time believing, but I
think they're missing a zero, but that's just my opinion.
Even if it's 5 million, but like, or 500,000, like I don't see how you can make this movie at 500,000, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is a back end thing where it's like you're going to get your cut is a higher percentage than you normally would because you're not going to get the payout originally. So
yeah,
because Rebecca Hall is not like a no-name actress either. So you would think that like her salary alone would be more than the whole budget.
That's how James Wan and like his name's escaping me. The guys that did Saul, like that's how they did it. They're like, they took no salary whatsoever. The writer and director and the star, like the writer and the star are the same guy. And they were just like, no, we'll just take a percentage. And then fucking Saul blew the fuck up, and they made like James Wan and him made buku dollars. So it's kind of like betting on yourself.
Did this get released into theaters then?
Yeah, so it does have. I've got domestic, international, and worldwide payouts that they ended up getting. Their box office. We'll just go worldwide. What do you think that this movie made worldwide on its $50,000 budget?
8 million.
Yeah, worldwide 8.
22 million.
22 million. All right, so domestic alone was 7 million.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Worldwide, it made $15,437,703.
Okay.
Steph wins by The Price is Right rule.
Yeah, exactly. $1.
$1. I shouldn't have went over. Okay, she's saying $1. I'm saying $2.
Yeah.
$2.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cock block you out of this.
Son of a bitch.
But yeah, like even if it's $500,000, still made money. $5 million worldwide, it tripled its money. But they're saying 50, and I gotta take it for.
Guess we'll go with it.
Yep, I gotta take it for what it's saying.
I suppose.
But before we really get into it and everything, this is a movie club. So make sure that you stick around to the end of the episode to hear what we are going to watch this coming week for our next week's episode. We usually talk about it the last 5 minutes or so of the episode. So if you have not seen The Night House, and you don't want it spoiled in a little bit, we're going to throw up a spoiler warning, and we are going to get into the meat and potatoes of the film. But before we do all of that, Tasha, do you want to give us a little overview about what this movie is about?
Having buried her husband recently, emotionally scarred, grief-stricken high school teacher Beth returns to her spacious, eerily vacant lake house he built for her, he being the husband, in the heart of a gloomy forest. But as pained Beth tries to pick up the pieces, before long, mysterious shadows and blood-curdling reflections on the windows start to taunt her, and suddenly she finds herself opening boxes, rummaging through the deceased's belongings. Little by little, Beth's intense late-night nightmares become increasingly vivid, taking a toll on her already fragile sanity. Now, pressing questions demand clear answers. Will Beth ever unearth the secret of the night house?
Bum, bum, bum.
Actually, that tells you a lot more about this movie than I ever even would have known. Like, it does kind of share a lot.
But it doesn't. But at the same time, knowing what we know, like, that doesn't give much away. At the same time, it's like,
no. But it does fill in the whole nightmare thing. Like, when you're watching the movie, if you don't know that that's what's happening, you kind of question that in the beginning, and then you finally realize it. So it takes a moment. So
before we start spoiling stuff, that maybe this will be a selling point for some people and everything, because there's a big reason why I like this movie. I'm not giving it like a 10 out of 10 or anything like that, but I liked it. This movie's got Silent Hill vibes all over it too. The nighttime scenes are very reminiscent of Silent Hill 2. And if you're into those vibes and what Tasha just read is interesting to you, definitely give this movie a shot if you haven't seen it already.
Yep.
But without further ado, unless you girls have anything else to say, we're going to throw out that spoiler warning.
Sure. Let's do it.
Throw it up so then we can say stuff.
Yes.
All right. You have been thoroughly warned. This is your last chance to stop listening to the episode. If you'd like to stick around and listen to us talk about it, we are going to go through the film, kind of laid back, have an open discussion about it. It is a spoiler zone. If you have seen it, stick around, listen. If you haven't and you don't care about spoilers, you're more than welcome to stay. I'm not going to kick you out. It's your phone. It's your computer. But if you do have interest in watching this, just skip to the last 5 minutes and catch up with us at the end, and we will tell you what we're watching next week. So without further ado, we have The Night House from 2020.
So if you want to be a part of our club, you can find us at facebook.com/podofthedead or else, on Instagram at pod_of_the_dead, or on TikTok at podofthedead. If you want to email us any questions, any complaints, or movie recommendations, you can email us at podofthedead666@gmail.com.
Okay, so which one are we doing first?
I am going to say I want to hear that sweet 1 out of 10.
Tasha.
All right. Here we go.
Let's hope they wrote things properly, and there's at least some grammar in this one. Find out.
It's grammar. It's not the greatest.
Oh, okay.
It's all just crayon drawings.
So 1 out of 10. My second worst cinematic experience after The Last Airbender. And what I find hilarious about this is then the reviewer put in the link for his review for The Last Airbender. You've got to be kidding me. This movie is proof that you absolutely cannot trust the ratings on here. This film is ridiculous. For much of you, may not even be sure what's going on. I will say I don't trust IMDb ratings either, but not necessarily for this scenario. I won't even bother with spoilers or the premise because it was so preposterous, it's not worth mentioning. Suffice to say, it's dark, dreary, and not at all scary unless the odd jump scare and loud noises qualify. Also, everyone is on about the lead, Rebecca Hall. I don't like this part. I found her annoying and not particularly attractive.
Yes.
And he is yes.
Which was a huge problem for me since most of the film involves staring at her face. And watching her reactions to
couldn't jack it to
bumps
this film.
and noises.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
She wasn't attractive enough for me, so I'm done.
Yeah.
As I state in the title, this movie is noteworthy, and that is one of the worst cinematic experiences I've ever had. I really contemplated walking out and was just about to when it mercifully ended. I was pissed to be honest, that I had wasted my time and money on it. Wasted is spelled incorrectly. I only recommend
maybe they were wasting away.
No.
I don't know if that's
their cry for help. I only recommend this movie if you are out and about and need a couple of hours of sleep in a dark place.
Yeah,
Brutal.
Tasha.
I know, like that part that resonates with me. Brutal, and some of these positive reviews are absurd. But the fact that he took a blow at Rebecca, like, she's a grieving widow whose husband just died. Like,
I mean, do you watch horror movies that are like your standard horror movies, or even like this, like a mystery type thriller, or any of those things, and go, man, I really need some masturbatory fantasies to watch. Oh man, give me that hot lady.
And it seems like he watched it in a theater, so he's like, I'm gonna fucking jerk it right here in the back of this AMC. Oh god damn it, she's not hot.
Yeah, it's like, go watch a Megan Fox movie. Go watch something with Angelina Jolie,
and you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I just what? Like, she's not ugly. So it's like, and even if she was, it doesn't matter. Like,
she's an actress. No point in the movie, right?
Yeah. We were just talking about like people who are not conventionally attractive, but you like them as actors regardless because of their talents. I mean,
right. Shocking.
Exactly. It's crazy how that works. And it only ever usually has to attribute to women because, that's how that works.
Yeah. Your husband died. Time to get sexy. Come on.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Right.
Show me your pants. Oh, yeah. Show me your panties. I think we were talking about like how this movie doesn't have nudity in it. And normally, like, we usually hit some nudity parts in the movies. And there's a shower scene in this movie and they don't show anything. And I was like, wow, like that doesn't normally happen. And I liked that they didn't do that in this movie because I think that takes away from like how deep and emotional this movie is supposed to be in the sense of like what she's going through. So
I threw an absolute hissy fit because I was like, why am I not getting titties in this movie?
Yeah.
This is unacceptable.
I mean, technically there's a statue in this movie that has titties. So if that works, it has nails going through it. So does that work for you?
That was totally up my alley. It was all
nails and all sorts of crevices.
Noise.
Yeah, that's your titillation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But no, like that is the thing that I think is really interesting with this movie, though. I actually meant to bring this up prior to the spoiler warning that if you were emotionally compromised, I don't think you should watch this movie.
No.
To be completely honest, because this movie plays in grief and loss very like it is
and abduction kind of.
Yeah, like
oh yeah.
It's
yeah. We'll just throw up a trigger warning right now that there is suicide.
Yes.
Yeah, it is the catalyst of this movie.
It's a movie, yeah, and it's straight up in your face.
But that kind of shit, though, like the way that they played with it and the wordplay, and how they do it is what made this movie for me. So we're in the spoiler territory. We're just doing open conversation. We're not going beat by beat and shit. So the fact that the thing...
Let's do it. Can we do a 10 out of 10 first?
Oh shit! Yeah, 10 out of 10. Sorry.
Yeah, you're fine. I was just waiting for you to be done.
I'm just amped.
Okay, so this is the 10 out of 10. I love this film. Full stop. This is not a gore horror or a flashy jump scare movie or horror. Excuse me, not movie. I love horror movies of all kinds. It's my most watched genre, and the psychological suspense horror is my all-time favorite type of film. Okay, so maybe that's what it describes this movie, right? Okay. This executes to an amazing degree. You start with the themes of grief and loss and people being stupid about said loss. Then things go to the afterlife, what happens when we die. Then hop to who turned on the stereo and what or was that a dream or real, or are the dreams really real? That's what he's asking. Excellently done. Shadow and reflection play. Shocking reveals. Me and my husband were self-soothing and grabbing our blankets the entire time. That's sweet. That's very sweet. I like the ending a lot. Could be a metaphor for depression. Could be a demonic figure that attaches itself to Beth and her childhood or teen years. Up to you on what you believe. We kind of talked about that last night.
Yeah.
Mirror realms, alternate dimensions, and dreams becoming reality or being predictive of the future give you the feeling of what's real and what's going on without leaving you so confused you can't keep up. The serial killer reveal was well built up to, and while not totally a surprise, you grieve the knowledge with Beth. Very immersive and beautiful. Open your mind, clear your expectations, and this movie will not disappoint. I feel like that covers a lot of it pretty well.
Yeah, when they talk about like the serial killer reveal, it's like in most movies that would be like the big deal about it. But it's like that's just a step towards.
It's the tragedy of the movie.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. So what were you going to say, Nick, about wordplay?
Oh, so like, the use of the word nothing.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire movie is really cool because let's see here. I got some notes here that I've got written up. There's all this talk about like what's after life. So Beth at the age of 17 gets in a car accident, is dead for like 4 minutes and stuff like that. And she talks about how, she lied to people because people would be like, so what was it like? So she'd give them the same bullshit, like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I saw that and everything. But then she's like, the only person she ever told the truth to was her husband, Owen. And she's like, there was nothing. It was just tunnel. There was nothing. So then as the movie goes on and stuff, you find out that there's this, I almost call it like a demon or something.
Yeah.
There's some spiritual evil that's basically been following her since then because it is nothing. It is the embodiment of nothing. And he says something to the extent of that where was it? He's like, you left the night we met. I'm what you found when your heart stopped. I've been with you ever since. Like, and it's just like, basically just like you saw me, I saw you, but she's saying that it's nothing. And it's like, he's always like referring to this nothingness as himself or itself. And I just really like that wordplay throughout, like anytime that kind of stuff came up.
It could also play really well with the mental health thing in this, where it's like
hopelessness and stuff.
Yeah. Like a darkness that's just, you're living in this hellscape of your own reality.
And I think that goes really well into like the idea of this is nothing. She saw nothing. But then when we see nothing, the villain, it's that like the negative space is him, which was the coolest part of this entire movie.
And it's not revealed until the end. So like, let that be known. So it's not like we're getting this in the beginning. We're building to this.
Yeah. I mean, like you get hints at it. Like she's seeing what looks like the silhouette of a man, but then like she shuts the door and it's just because how shadows are lying. And that was really cool. And then like, as the movie goes on, it gets to the point where it's like the architecture of the house, like the, I don't know what you call that. Like the
moldings.
Like the molding.
Yeah, the crown moldings and stuff, how it is at a certain angle against a doorway makes it look like a male face or a human face and stuff like that. And it just keeps building and like, it's just fucking weird. And it gets to the fucking point where it's like, it just slaps you in the face because the form that is static here because of the molding and everything, the fucking form turns and like looks in a direction. And like that shit was fucking cool.
It was.
So before that, when it was just the crown molding and like the door, do you think that was camera work or do you think that was like CGI?
I don't know.
That would be really cool if it was like the actual camera aligned.
They said a lot of it was practical. Like, so I mean, they could have CG'd it and everything, but like considering how this film like takes, you can tell that it like has its heart on its sleeve and then, like its cinematography and stuff. Like it sets up these like really well blocked shots and everything. I have a feeling that they were like, okay, we're gonna cut that, because there's a lot of like art that's done that way where it's just like force perspective through all these things to get this shape, and that's what they do in this movie. And I feel that like that was kind of like a cornerstone of like, all right, I've got this idea for a movie and this is going to be the main trick that we do in it. And I think that's what they did.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah, I do too. And well, the only time I think that it wouldn't have worked is when they were doing the shadow on the glass door. Like that was the first major reveal of it. And it was like she was coming to go either up or down to see his like office that's in her basement in this really beautiful house. Like this house, I was like, I will live in this house. This house is gorgeous. There's like windows everywhere. It is just so nice. And her husband built it for her. And I love how like this movie isn't like, well, you have to guess like what happened to him. No, they can tell you. Like she straight up is like, this is what happened. He went into the freaking, she doesn't know, like he wasn't having a mental health break. There was nothing, like he wasn't depressed. He was actually the opposite. Like he was the light to her dark. And he goes in the middle of their pond that their house is attached to essentially, or like a lake. And he goes and takes a gun. She didn't even know they possessed. And he just offs himself like in the middle of the pond or lake or whatever it is. And so like, and I thought that was interesting because like most movies will just kind of allude to like, oh, well, he died. And, you know, because then they showed in this, like she was like reliving their past and their wedding and like all these things and going through like their pictures and she's grieving. So like you're getting to experience all that you would expect somebody to do when they're grieving is like, they don't want to be around people, but people want to be there to support them. And then they just want to live in their own and wallow in their own misery. And I have to say this movie won in the way of it has the best friend in a movie that you could have. Like her best friend in this movie was amazing. And their neighbor was also amazing in this movie. Like they weren't annoying. They were really well thought out, put together characters that really added to the story, in my opinion.
I really like how they portrayed her emotions too. Like you can tell when she's like at the start that she's like angry. There's like that anger, grief, sadness. And like, at least I picked up on, like, I think we may have already known, I don't know if we remember if it was before we knew he committed suicide or after, but how she almost seemed like resentful towards Owen for dying. At least that's how I perceived it. And then when you were talking, Steph, about how it just comes right out and says like how he killed himself, I absolutely love that scene with her and the student's mom.
Oh yeah.
Oh
that was one of my favorite scenes.
One of the best scenes. Yeah. So she's going like play for play. I was like, I cannot believe this just happened. And Nick and I were talking about this when this movie was playing, because I was like, she goes to work like literally a couple days after her husband dies, and she's going back to do her grading. Now, I wasn't sure if it was like in the beginning when she was doing like this meeting, if it was like high school or if it was college or what.
Likewise.
We kind of realized it was probably high school at some point, you know, after she's in her room. And then the mom just like kind of welcomes herself in and is like, you should know why I'm here. And like the attitude behind this, I'm like, and then, well, my son got a C in your class because you didn't let him do this. And she's like, well, I had a personal thing happen, so I couldn't, like, you know, and I was like, okay. And she's like, well, his thing's personal too. And then she just fucking slaps this lady down. Well, my husband, he fucking killed himself. And I was like, boom. Like,
and she's so matter of fact about it.
Yes, she is.
In the mouth. Pow.
Yeah. It wasn't even like he killed himself. It's like, so my husband shot himself in the head the other day, and, you know, that's why I couldn't. So it's like, so.
And how then the mom apologized, and she was like, oh, so you want an A? Okay, an A.
Yeah,
like,
you're no. Here, we'll make this a B. Oh, the B wasn't good enough? An A. I don't care. She's like, oh, no, that's not what I want. Okay, a B then. Fucking, like, it was literally like, get the fuck out of my face.
Rebecca Hall is such an incredible actress. And that right there shows it.
Yeah, exactly. Like she's in there and this woman's like trying to put this teacher in her place, like she knows better. And then the teacher's just like literally, not literally, but like figuratively punches her in the mouth with the truth. And like, love that. And like, I think this is a good play on like when you in real life, when people are having like moments and you're at stores and you're dealing with, say you're having a shitty day and you're out to eat and your waitress messes something up, right? And instead of like having empathy and understanding that, you know, we all have shit we're going through. You don't know what this person's going through. You can have some compassion there and try to have some patience and be like, well, maybe they're having a day. Maybe this is what's going on. And this is a very good example of that on a, like the nth degree of where like, well, my son deserves a better grade because you weren't there to do this. And then she's like, no, I'm gonna show you what this is really about. And I loved how she handled it because I told Nick, I was like, I would do the same thing. I would have been like, fine, you want to be, take a fucking B, go away. Like I don't want to do it.
It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
It really doesn't. My husband just blew his brains out. Like I don't care if your son is an A or a B. Like realistically. So I liked that part.
Yeah, the two, like the only scene in this movie that I had a problem with, because like I really like that scene and everything. The only scene that I really had a big problem with, and Steph didn't agree with me about it, was when they go out to the bar for drinks after, I think it was like later that evening or whatever. I was like, because I like the best friend and everything, but like in this scene, all of the friends in this are just the fucking like, I've got something. It's like they're the nosiest, like unfucking I can't even remember what
there's
I wrote,
like no compassion there. There's no empathy. I think they asked like
dumb
questions. Stupid questions.
Yeah, just like
asked,
some
like,
of the,
I think like how he died, if he left a letter.
Yeah, that was the one. It was like, did he leave a letter? And I was just like, are you fucking serious?
And when the guy was like, are you sure you had no idea?
Yeah, I was just like
really? You didn't know?
Oh my God.
You don't do that.
But I didn't agree with Nick. It's only because I have an actual experience where we lost somebody to suicide and it was abrupt. We did know there was mental health issues associated with it, but that is the kind of questions that you like instantly when you hear that they kill themselves, you kind of have that like, well, why did they do it? Did you not know about it? Did they leave a note? Like all of these things that go in your head. Like, I feel like that's very logical thing that you're going to run to. And instead of having compassion and being like, well, I probably shouldn't say the shit. They're drinking, shooting the shit. And they're like, well, we really want to know these things because in general, everybody wants to know these things when somebody kills themselves. So they're just doing this.
Ask it.
No, but you don't.
It's none of your fucking business.
Right. That's the part that irritated me because of course you're curious, but that person's curiosity doesn't trump having to explain that as the person dealing with it.
While watching the movie,
just my thought.
While watching the movie, I wrote legit nosiest, insensitive fucking friends. But then this scene though is also a big scene because this is when you actually get the suicide note that she keeps in her purse.
I mean, that's with blood on it. Like that was legit.
Yeah.
And it says it's very simple. There's no names. There's no nothing. It just says you were right. There is nothing. Nothing is after you. You are safe now. And that's the shit. Like until the end of the movie, like that wordplay where it's like there is nothing. And it's like, oh, that's depressing. You know, nothing is after you. And it's like, does it mean like after you're alive, there's nothing? And then it's like you are safe now. It's like, what the fuck does that mean with like what's going on? But like when you know that nothing is an entity, it's like you are right. There is nothing. There is a thing called nothing.
Yeah.
And it is after you. But whatever I've done has now made you safe.
But then it makes you also, it makes you wonder though, with the end of his thing where he's like, you're safe now. Well, is he safe from you? Or are you safe from him? Like at some point you're like, was he like trying to hide who he really is? And then they kind of allude to that a little bit and throughout the movie. So you have to question your sanity in a sense. It's like, is this really what's happening? With that part with his, like I don't want to say, I guess it doesn't really matter with our spoiler warnings, but like you wonder if he's like gonna hurt her and now he's killed himself because he's worried he's going to hurt her. So
I think that's exactly what it is. Like he's trying to trick nothing throughout this whole movie.
Yeah, he is. But I mean, like, what I'm saying is, like, when you're watching this, you don't know that that's what she's talking about. You think that he just killed himself because he's a bad guy. And then you kind of still think throughout the movie that he's a bad guy. And then the end, he ends up being literally the most tragic character in this entire movie.
Yeah, because they even get to the point where she ends up meeting. So like throughout the movie, if you're here, you've more than likely seen it. You end up finding out like he's got all these pictures of all these women that look like her and all this stuff, and she starts tracking down this one at a bookshop and everything. Gets talking to her and everything, and finds out that it's not an affair, but it's like attempt. Like it's like right there, like there was a kiss and everything that had happened. But he's taking these women back to this house, the other house that's across the lake, which we haven't even gotten into that stuff. And he's fucking killing these women because at the end of the day, what he's actually doing is he's killing these women because that's what Nothing wants. Nothing wants Beth dead and back to her. So Nothing has been whispering in Owen's ear to kill Beth. So instead, Owen is killing these other women that look like Beth to trick Nothing into making it think that he's doing it. So he's just kind of like pushing off the inevitable kind of thing. And it just gets to a point where he can't do it anymore, or Nothing finally took him like instead to just get closer to Beth, or I don't know. But yeah, like there's the scene where she's like at the kitchen table talking to the other girl, and the other girl's like, well, maybe he killed himself because he couldn't live with like the affair, the cheating on you and stuff. And like they do a really good job of like, you know, like, well, maybe that is what it is, but later on you find out it's not.
Well, and when she talks to the neighbor like she goes for a walk, finds this house like at some point, and the neighbor sees her walking to go find this house, and he's trying to like kind of push her off the path in the sense of like not let her see what she thinks she knows exists. And he's like, she ends up eventually finding this house. It's like not even built exactly like their house. It's like just
it's a reverse floor plan.
Yes, but it's not just a reverse floor plan. It's not fully built. It's just like the bare bones of it. Yeah. And the neighbor guy knows about this, and he's just trying to not get her like more messed up in the head because she's like acting kind of crazy. And that's why you're wondering through this entire movie. And I love this about this movie is like, is she really crazy? Is she really seeing the things that she's seeing? Because like we get thrown into these nightmares with her, and she's seeing things that aren't real, but they are in her dreams. Like, and then there's just so much of this movie. It's very layered in that sense. And the neighbor, eventually she kind of confronts him, and he comes out and he's like, well, he said he had these urges. And then the whole time you're like, oh my God, is he just like a murderer, like a serial killer? And we didn't know this. Like, that's crazy.
If they went just that route, I would have fucking hated this movie. That's the line. Like if it was just that cut and dry, that it was just like, oh no, he had this secret life that he was a serial killer, I was like, this movie sucks. But the fact that they like took it to the end, like, yeah, he's a serial killer for this reason, and like I was like, oh, okay, cool, I'm down with that.
That's an acceptable serial killer.
Yeah. Well, no, because I've seen the other stuff.
He has morals.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen a lot of stuff, and like there's things in this movie that remind me of other things, but the I don't say the reveal or whatever, I thought was like really well done, especially in the fact that they're like playing in this like grief and like just dealing with like her like internal struggle of this stuff, but then like tied in with the mystery, and then it takes it to the nth degree, and it's just like, no, there is something hunting you down from the other side. But and then also like the nightmare realm, which is what I refer to as like the Silent Hill kind of stuff, is very surreal. It's very creepy. Like it's so dark. It plays with a lot of like flashlight and stuff like that. There's like a light fog everywhere, like beyond like what she can see. And that's where she's like when in the nightmare realm is when she first sees the other house, which is across the lake, and she just sees the lights in the forest. And when she's talking to the neighbor and stuff, he's like, no, this is county ground. Like no one's allowed to build out here and everything. So she ends up, digging back there and ends up finding this house that's basically a graveyard. You end up finding out like underneath the floorboards.
That was,
yeah, it's just full of dead bodies wrapped in plastic.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, like her foot falling through the floor, and then all of a sudden she looks down, and like, wait, you have no idea. Like, I was wondering if this was going to happen and how they were going to show us, like, how, like, were we just going to find a hand? Were we going to find something? And then because the one girl, when she came to visit, I was like, oh, well, he didn't kill her, so maybe this isn't really a thing. Like, he had all these pictures. Maybe these were just the women he was having an affair with. And then it turns into the neighbor being like, well, he has these urges, and I'm like, oh shit. And then it kind of just keeps playing into that, like, that feeling. And then, you know, maybe he couldn't live with himself anymore because he was a murderer and now she's safe. Well, yeah, he kind of is that. But what did you guys feel about the books? Like, that is kind of what tips you into the, like, paranormal, like, outside of normal reality realm, just of understanding. And I was curious as to what you guys thought about the books.
I wish they would have delved more into it, because that part was really interesting to me. I wanted to know more about, like, the deity. So I did some, or like the statue, I guess, probably not a deity. So I dug some more into that. And then I made sure to read the screenshot of what she was actually reading. But that component was really cool. And I think that's where you can obviously, like, the movie tries to go down that avenue a little bit, and I think that's kind of a plot hole almost, where you don't get more than just that snippet, that little tiny paragraph in the book of, like, he's trying to do this reverse thing to trick nothing. So that was something that I had to go back through and do, like, research on, because when I watched it, I was really underwhelmed by what little you got from it.
See, like, I think between, like, the paragraph that you get about the Louvre doll is what it's referred to as. Well, it's not referred, you just see it written, which is like this statue idol kind of thing. And it's basically a woman's form with her arms pulled back, touching her, like, she's on her knees, touching her ankles and, like, arched back. And then there are just massive, like, nails through it. And it's super intimidating looking. It's just very, like, you see it and it's just like, that can't mean good stuff.
That's not good. Yeah.
But, like, that paired up with when you are looking at his blueprints and stuff of the house, and you start seeing there's, like, these kind of, like, occult symbols and stuff, and then there's, like, labyrinthine kind of geometry and stuff that he's writing about and all this stuff. And it that paired together with, like, there's also, like, a note that he's got written down in his blueprints that it says something to the extent of, like, don't listen to it, trick it, or something like that. And you kind of get, like, I didn't see a plot hole in it. Like, that was the stuff that really got me, like, into it. And the fact that, like, so how I looked at it was, like, he's getting these urges and stuff, so he starts reaching out over time, because he starts sleepwalking 2 years after they moved into this house. That's when all this shit, I think, starts, and they've been living there somewhere up close to 10 years, it seems. So he's had 10 years of dealing with this stuff and to research and everything, that I think that kind of, it's not like it just happened yesterday. He's been, like, going through, like, going probably, like, churches, like, this is what's going on. They're like, pray. So he prays and it doesn't work. So he's, like, gets to this point where he ends up finding this bookshop in, like, Ithaca, New York or whatever. And they've got, like, these occult books and shit. And he finds out about these dark, like, forces and how to try and trick them and throw them off the path. So he's like, fuck it, I'll just try to do that. And personally, I think that's all they needed to do. But I mean, if you wanted more meat on the bone, I suppose. But
I did. And then I wonder, like, so what you said about it happened a couple of years after the house was built. So he had the plans for the house. I might just start talking and not making any sense, but, like, he had the plans for the house, but then also had the reverse plans. Did he build the house to throw off this villain, or did he build the house and then the villain came? Because it's alluded to that nothing is with Beth since she was younger. So nothing was with Beth before she met Owen. What does the house have to do with it other than to throw?
I don't think the house has anything to do with it. What I think it is that nothing has been trying to get at Beth, trying to get her back in some way. After they got married, after the 2 years that they had been married at this house and stuff, nothing came to the conclusion that I'm going to start whispering to this guy, and maybe this is how we're going to do it. Because that's like some of like in the later bit of the movie, like when you are confronted with it, he flat out, like nothing in Owen's form, straight up tells her, it's like, I went to your husband and whispered in his ear over and over. He sent them instead. He tricked me for a while.
That's
so
right, yeah.
like all that kind of stuff is like and it's in her husband's voice, like, and the reveal, oh my god, my favorite part of the movie is she keeps thinking that this ghostly thing that is in the house is her husband. So you know, like she's asleep at night and the radio kicks on, like playing this song that I'd mentioned earlier, the Cavalry Cross song. It starts the same way every time. It's like 30-second mark, boom, it hits. It's kind of like this folky rock song, and it happens, and like they don't really talk about, like, it seems like maybe this was their song or something, but like it keeps coming on. So she starts going, like, you know, like thinking that the house is haunted with Owen's ghost, that he's trying to tell her something. So she's like hunting down this ghost. She's hunting down this
and talking to him,
and gets to the point, you know, like to the point where like she's basically like confronted with him and reaches out and is able to touch his form, but he's invisible. And you see like her fingertips pressing against nothing. I love that. And they kind of embrace and like what's almost like a kiss and something like that.
It was weird.
It was, but it was cool the way that it was filmed.
And then she like touches it. It's like, is this real? Like, you know, and everything. And she's like, is it you, Owen? And then you just hear this voice and goes, no.
I know, that was the best thing.
I was just like, oh,
I was like, holy
so
shit.
Violated for her.
I know. Well, and then you
got assaulted by a ghost.
Yeah. Well, and then, you know, like she was supposedly in the dreamlike state. She was supposed to seeing text messages and stuff. And so like, you know, that technically wasn't him sending them. So like she's carrying on like this whole, she's going to see this other, like she's in the, I don't even know what did you call it, honey? Like the
nightmare realm.
Okay. Well, that's what I'll refer to it as, because I can never think of like a word to use for this.
The other world, the upside down. It's just
the upside down. Yeah. But the other realm. Okay. So when she goes to visit that other house, when she sees it across the water, and she sees all these women's in this house that looks exactly like hers, but backwards. Even the numbers on the front of the house are backwards, which I fucking loved that. So it was like in reverse.
I was really happy that it was there. Yeah.
Yeah, it was neat. And you see all these women in the windows, and like they're different storylines essentially. So I'm wondering if that's not how some of them died. And like, cause you see like, it's a lot of like fighting, or not, like, it's obviously not bloody or anything, but you kind of, they're fighting upstairs with one of the women that looks like her but isn't her, and I loved that. And you wonder, and this is where I was like, is this the guy, like the nothing guy, like portraying in her dreams like what happened, or is she dreaming of what her husband really did? Like, I don't know, like we're living in this different like nightmare realm, so what really is this? What are we really seeing? Or is she really just having weird nightmares? Yeah. What's the point?
Is it like her unconscious projecting like this kind of stuff? Or like, but like once you are confronted with it later on and stuff, when you find out it is another thing and everything, when she's getting drugged through the house and all this stuff, I think you're actually seeing what Owen did. Like Owen did these horrible things. He murdered these women to satiate this nothing to save the one he loves, which is, like you said, a very tragic, sad, like it is. He's a horrible person, but at the same time, I mean, he's horrible to the other families.
Yeah. I mean, but it comes down to what matters to you most. And he's like, I know what matters to me most, and I know what I'm going to do to make sure that that's okay. And I can say that a lot of us are kind of like that in our own ways. So
literally doing whatever it takes to protect the one he loves.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine though, like being in his shoes in this entire freaking storyline of being like, hey, of course. Where the guy's coming to him and is like literally forcing his hand, and essentially, because he's whispering this in his ear. So, he has influence, and he's like, okay, well, I obviously have these urges. I got to do this. So instead of killing my wife, I got to go kidnap a woman that looks like her. And then I got to do these really horrible things. And then I have to live with myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because like in like you see the extent of the influence too, because they talk about like how, you know, Owen had sleepwalking and stuff like that going on, and then Beth basically starts having that stuff. Like when she's like in the other realm, she keeps waking up in weird places and stuff, and it gets to the point where she is on the same boat that Owen killed himself on, talking to Owen, but it's Owen's form, but it is clearly like, it's not even like hidden. It is nothing talking to her, and it's telling her to kill herself to come to him. Like there's not like, come to nothing. Like there's nothing here. Like there's no reason to live there. Everything that you loved is gone. Just come to me. And that's the extent of it. Like, so we can believe with the information given to us that this is the kind of hell that Owen was going through in some sense of this thing. So it was just this weight that was on him, and he's doing everything he could to protect her, and to no avail.
I know. And that's what's sad. The other question is, and this is, I want your guys' opinion. So what was the purpose of the two women we see? She goes outside after she wakes up or whatever. She's not really awake, but we're assuming she's awake. And she goes outside. There was like wind chimes or something. And then there's two women running through her yard. And then there's two of them. And you see them at first, and they're like partially clothed, and then they jump off the cliff. So she goes and looks, and then there's obviously nothing, because we already are well aware that like that we're in this other realm. But like, what's the purpose of that? I know we realize that it's these other women at some point and blah, 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 but what's other than her falling off a mountain?
I think everything that is killed by the nothing or for the nothing is like its spirit or whatever is trapped there and like consistently hunted by it. So okay. I think they're legitimately running from it. And
so this is like this isn't just like a weird reality where she's imagining it. This is the reality and the upside down, essentially.
Correct. I think it's in between like consciousness and unconsciousness. Like it's because
the dream world,
because they talk about like sleep paralysis and stuff like that. Like when the mind is awake, but the body's asleep, and vice versa and stuff like that. And it's just kind of in this weird veil. And that's why I refer to it as like the nightmare realm. Because I feel that it's not necessarily, it's almost like the astral projection thing in a weird way. Like it's not that it's here, and it's not that it's a different dimension. It's just like this other place where the nothing, it's like in wherever you go when you die, or like right before you get like the tunnel, the limbo. Yeah. Like it's there almost. Okay. And that's so it's like he's
trapped their souls there, and now he's requiring them to relive the tragedy of their deaths over and over and over again.
That's what it kind of feels like.
But is it punishment because of it's not her, and so like he's not letting them go, or is this how he feeds?
I just think it's evil. I think it's just pure evil. Like I don't think it's any like legitimate reasoning for it other than it has these things and it's going to torture. Like it's evil personified almost. Like
so we're believing this is a demon itself and not the devil.
No, I don't think it's the devil. Like
I saw it as death, not necessarily a demon. Yeah, like this is death in a different form.
That would be interesting. Like
as nothing is death.
Okay.
But then, if it's nothing's death, though, then how are we reiterating the same souls and all of that in itself?
Well, that's assuming that's what's going on.
Yeah.
And I see it as this world doesn't exist unless Beth is there. Like, this isn't something that's happening in another realm. This realm is within her. Right. So, and I don't necessarily know, like, this is just a very loose explanation, but like nothing is there. It's these bits that we see with the red moon, and like it's more or less like you're just crossing over the veil and then coming back. So it's there for her to see, but it doesn't exist outside of her experiencing it.
Okay, so it's not a separate entity, it's in her head.
Right.
Essentially.
That's how I did. Yeah. Okay. I see nothing as a separate entity, but I see what nothing is doing to her as happening within her.
Okay. So
not necessarily that she's going somewhere. So like she went to the other house, but in reality, the other house is incomplete. But when she's in that dream state, when she goes, it's a full house, but that's only happening within her like subconscious or something like that. It's happening internally.
So you're saying like the nothing is basically infiltrating her dreams in a way?
Yeah. And sometimes I don't even think it's dreams. Like when she's flipping through the book, I really liked that scene. When she's flipping through his architecture book and you start to see the mazes. And then she flips back and it's just the basic house. So like, are those mazes even there? Because after she went back, then it's just the house and the reverse house, and those mazes aren't there.
Okay.
I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice that either.
Yeah.
So this is a movie you would definitely have to watch again just to kind of understand it. Well, Tasha will fall asleep 4 times, but maybe not this time.
And, I mean, and something else, like when I think it was after she had seen the new house or the reverse house, when she opened the door and saw herself sleeping on the couch.
Yes, yeah. I love that.
And then that was too. Her. So like, I don't think it's dreams. I think it's very much in the sense of like The Secret Window, where or like Shutter Island or something like that, where you're crossing over, but it's all happening internally. It's not actually there. It's not a demon acting on you. It's not tangible.
Another realm. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It definitely has a lot to think about in this movie, because it doesn't, as much as it explains, it doesn't. It does a lot like in like vague undertones and stuff like that, and I like that. And then also like the mood, like I said, it's got like that Silent Hill kind of ooky spooky vibe going on. Yeah, I had something I was going to say. It must not be that important. But yeah, like, okay, so you get all the architecture stuff going on early. Once the fucking curtain has been pulled back and you find out that it's the nothing, from the never ending story, it's that fucking wolf, the nothing. I didn't know that this was a sequel to it. Who knew? But it gets to a point where like it's just doorways and everything. It's just this form, and it's just so imposing. And the only way you ever see it is in Owen's like form. Realistically, everything else is shadows and silhouetted doorways and everything. So you never actually see it. Like what
because
it's
that's
supposed
its form.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
It's nothing.
Yeah,
it's the absence of something.
I know, and I fucking love that.
That's what it is. Yeah, I agree. Especially like you mentioned the doorways, like when that like she's in the house and it's when she's seeing Owen like killing everybody, and then like she gets like attacked or whatever, and then that long doorway.
Yeah.
That happened.
Yeah.
That one took me a second to realize like the form of him or it, whatever. Yeah. That was really cool. That was very well done.
Yeah, because like the hallway extends and you just see like the entirety of the hallway is like that, like a bust, like the head and shoulders of something, and you're like, what the fuck? I was instantly at that point, I was like, yes, this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
For all of that stuff though, like it is a slow paced movie. It's not going to be for everyone, you know, all that stuff. I would love to see this movie again though. Like it's
you have to go into it. Definitely, I think it's going to be an Easter egg movie. So it's like you watch it the first time not knowing anything, going in the second time and being like, oh no, I see that now. Like my thing is like, okay, we have these footprints coming up on the dock, right? And they're like muddy, like it's come out of the water, and then they disappear, but then they're there, and then they disappear like variety of times throughout the movie. And I'm like, okay. And then one time we see the boat and it's covered in plastic with blood, and then she blinks, and then the boat's back to normal with like the cover over it. So like it's a lot of like, she's not sleeping at this time, so obviously she's switching between something going on in her head. So like, and that's where with the reviewer who said it, that you kind of wonder if this is a mental break at the same point in this movie, because it's like you know that the neighbor does, you know, tell her that he has these urges that he's talked to him about, and then you do see, which I think is real, like I don't think that she's imagining this, the bodies under the floor, but everything else it could just be a mental break. You don't know. Like we're assuming that her husband really is all these things and that nothing really is there, but her husband could have just been a serial killer.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, realistically, and she's just finding her own weird way to cope with that. And by doing all this other fucked up stuff that her brain's creating for her. and she's going into like psychotic mode and to deal with her husband killing himself.
Up until it says no, that it's not Owen, you don't know what to believe.
You still don't know that now because she could still be in her head in a fake reality, still thinking that she's talking to her husband. And then the husband's like, and then finally her brain's like, no, this isn't him. And her brain could be having the psychotic break because then that's the other things that happen, like the smashing the head against the window. You don't know that it was this entity. It could have been her doing it herself. Like all of these pieces could actually not really be existing. Like Tasha was saying, it could be in her own mental healthscape. And then she goes out onto the boat and we think that she's living like we see. Her friend sees like reality. She sees all this stuff talking to this guy. We don't know that's real. We just know that it's in her head. So reality is her husband really genuinely could just be a serial killer. No, and
I refuse to believe that. Nope.
But I'm not, well, they try to paint it like it's not in this, but the reality is it really could be though.
Yeah. Yeah. Like this definitely, like you can watch this movie and come up with like 3 different outcomes or whatever.
And that's what I like about this. I think it's brilliant.
For me, the movie is only good for if it is what I think it is, because the other ones I just don't think are that interesting.
Yeah. But I think it's really easy to bounce back and forth too. Yeah. There's a website that I found called thisisbarry.com and they do a really good job of breaking apart the 2 explanations, one being paranormal, one being mental health. And they meld so beautifully together. Like it's so easy to see how it could be both, how nothing is this entity or how nothing is this void that suicidal ideations can come from.
Yep.
So like the void of the hole that is left after Owen has left.
Right.
Kind of, yeah.
And yeah, so maybe Owen, like Steph said, maybe Owen was a serial killer. He had these urges. He had these like, who knows what. And when what's his name? When the neighbor said that, I thought he meant he just had these urges to like cheat on his wife. It didn't even dawn on me until the bodies were there that it was like these urges to kill people.
And maybe he was like a ritualistic sacrifice guy. So, and that's what brought in like the body with all the nails and stuff. And then that's the reality of it instead, where he ritualistically wants to kill them, but doesn't kill them in his own home. So he creates another home to look like his home. So then he can ritualistically kill them in that house to fulfill his need to want to kind of hurt his wife, but really kill these other people. You don't know. I mean,
Justice for Owen. Owen. You will not. He's a tragic character.
He is. I agree. But I mean, I agree with your perspective of it, but I do think that there is a very easy turn where, it is a mental health thing.
I was reading that because I read more into that entity and it mentioned like that was like you were supposed to bind them that way to sacrifice the gift to like this deity, the spirit, whatever. And one of the reasons why nothing became so attached to Beth or finally was able to like sink its teeth into Beth was she brought that
into the
figure
home.
into her home. So that mixed with her grief, nothing was able to grab on and start like doing its bidding with her, which I thought was really cool. Like I would have missed that had I not done some digging.
Well, I noticed that. I figured that was the case when they brought it into the house because I was like, I can't believe she fucking brought that home. I'm like, that's always a no. You don't do that. So when I saw that, I was like, okay,
creepy. We're not bringing it home.
Yeah, like why? Keep this in my house so I can stare at it from the place that my husband killed all these women. Like, what the fuck?
It's kind of like the poltergeist thing where it's like you move the headstones, but you didn't move the bodies. It's just like you bring it. Like it's just this is bad juju, man.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, and her whole house is like tore apart as she's trying to understand all of this stuff. And I understand like she wants to see this so she can like pull for reference, but at the same time it's like, yeah, no thanks. But yeah, that's what I liked about this movie overall. I thought it was definitely different. It was beautifully shot. It had great acting. It is slower, but it definitely doesn't have your normal like over the top music or over the top acting, and it's not gory at all, really. I mean, I think we got like a couple moments of blood, but like other than like some blood on a boat and I think they handled the suicide well.
Yeah, there's a couple strangle scenes that are really, really short. Like you see it for like a half a second where he's like putting a pillow over it because she's like walking past rooms or being drugged past them, and you're just seeing like all of these flashback kind of scenarios where Owen's killing these people. Like, so you see that, but it's not gratuitous. And then like she gets her head smashed against a mirror, and there's a little blood on her forehead, and that's about it. Like that's all the violence you really see in it. And
I could have done without that scene. Like it just seemed like I understand the point of it, but I just thought it was kind of silly how she was getting attacked by nothing.
See, that's why I don't think it's death, because in my head, like the embodiment of death and stuff is such a neutral thing. It's not like vengeful or hungry for something. That's why I think it is legitimately something that has like an appetite, because
or badness, or like something evil.
It had her in its grasp. She got away when she was 17, and now he's like, it's that whole like the one that got away. It's like, you're gonna fucking be mine.
Exactly. So, and I think that can be Death's role too. You cheated Death, and now Death wants
you're going to Final Destination.
Yeah. Well, whenever I think of Death, though, I always go back to that. What was the show we watched on Netflix?
Sandman.
Yeah, that's the Death that I see in my head.
That's such a sad death.
It is, and it's
she plays a neutral character.
She does, and it's just like she's very compassionate and very loving, and it's kind of it's like basically like the Grim Reaper. I mean, that's what the Grim Reaper is too, right? So, that's when I think of Death. That's what I think of. I don't think of a bad guy. I always think of the woman that I saw on the Sandman show.
Yeah, like that was fucking great. If you haven't seen
the show's awesome.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Sandman, I highly suggest it. It is.
We should
beautiful
rewatch
dark
that.
Fantasy. Yeah, I'm down for it.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Have you seen it, Tasha?
No, I haven't.
It's by Neil Gaiman, the guy that wrote Coraline, and he wrote a fuck ton of stuff. But
it's so good. Like,
it's beautiful. It's like it was a comic book series in the 90s.
Okay.
But I think
so what did you guys think about the ending? Like the very, very end?
Oh, like is it still there?
Yeah. And then what happens from that point on? Because I still think it's there, because clearly you can still see nothing in the shadow.
It goes one of two ways in my head. Like either if it's supernatural, it's super sad because forever it's going to be hunting you down. But also if you go with the whole mental health and stuff like that, that's the whole thing of the embodiment of grief that you hear a lot. Like do you ever get over it? And it's like, no, it just gets easier, but it'll always be there. And so that's, I 100% agree with, like, they play with that, but I refuse to believe that it is a solely grief kind of thing. I think there is something there, because that makes
it more tragic.
Yeah, it makes it a more interesting narrative for me, because if it's just like grief, I've seen so many movies that are like, you've got Hereditary, you've got The Babadook, like there's a lot of movies that do this, and I just kind of like wore out on that. So I like that they used grief, but I like to think that nothing is like, well, because she's grieving, she's easier prey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as a movie goes, I like the idea of nothing being a thing. As far as like taking something from the movie, I like having that like mental health, depression spin to it. So you can like find I don't want to say find meaning necessarily, but there's something that sticks instead of it being like this entity that will always be following. It kind of makes it superficial.
Yeah.
So having this possible like undertone explanation, I think is really cool. How you can see it from face value as this entity, or going a little deeper, you can take the metaphorical route of this is depression and grief and how you can cope with it over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the ending of it, if it's the grief thing, her friends there, her neighbors there, they're there to support her and love her and help her get through whatever. And if it's not, then she's basically fucked. I mean, it's like, and that's the end of the movie, because I was just like, okay, is this where we're ending it? And like, I liked that it ended where it did. I felt like it covered all of our bases. Like she, you know, in the sense of like, we got to experience what we needed to experience, but it doesn't really tie all up the loose ends. So like, it's kind of like you have to infer whatever you believe while watching this. And I can definitely be in the middle, and I agree that it could be one thing, it could be the other, but that's, I think overall the best part about this movie is that you can take whatever you want from this, and it really gives you a good sense of what grief could look like to somebody, especially in this situation with somebody committing suicide, and also, and then the outside entity piece.
So one last question before we really give like our review of it and stuff. Do you feel like how they did this movie and everything, I've seen some light rumblings of a sequel, is that of any interest?
No.
Even if it wasn't Beth and it was just a completely different story but using this?
No.
Okay.
I don't like it because because of all of the little twists that are in this, the wordplay of nothing, things like that, all of that's already established.
Yeah.
So all of the bits that I found interesting would be lost.
Yeah.
It would just be a continuation.
I mean, if they're going to give you more of an understanding if this really is an entity, and they're kind of confirming that instead of this being a grief thing, and they're giving you a different person, a different storyline, maybe not suicide, something else, I think they could do an interesting twist on it, but I don't think it would be successful in any way, because you've already you just gave away all your hat tricks. Yeah,
it's one of those things where it's not necessary, because it does what it does well, and we don't need every question answered.
Yeah, not every horror movie or movie in general needs a sequel or more than one. I mean, sometimes one is the best, and then you're just basically trying to milk an audience for something that's unnecessary.
Right. I 100% agree with that. I'm not a huge fan in most cases. Yeah, but I'm not in most like genres. The second one is usually the worst.
Whoa.
Not in Lord of the Rings.
Not in Aliens. Not in Terminator. I'm
thinking more of books, but like if you're reading a trilogy, the second one, in my opinion, is usually boring. It starts off strong,
I think it depends,
and it wraps it up at the end. So the second one is kind of, in some cases, unless it's like already implied that there will be a sequel, like a loose end, or like it's a cliffhanger at the end of the first movie where you're already geared up for a second one. A lot of times I'm fine with just a standalone book or movie. It's all neatly wrapped. We get to take what we want with it and we can go.
Agreed.
The second one is kind of like beating a dead horse in some cases.
Ooh, I love that. I'm a big fan of beating dead horses. But okay, so like that being said, with how you guys view a sequel possibility and stuff, do you think this movie would be better if there at the end we didn't see a silhouette at all?
I like the silhouette.
Do you?
Mm-hmm. Because it kind of gives you don't care?
No.
Yeah. I like it from two aspects, because if you're looking at it from the mental health standpoint of it, it's like where Mel was like, there's nothing out there, and she's like, I know. So
more wordplay than I like.
Yeah, exactly. So looking at it that way, if you're looking at it from the mental health standpoint, it's almost like an exchange of hope. Like nothing is still there. It's there, but I'm here and it'll be okay. I know it's there. I acknowledge its existence, but I can still live and move forward.
Yeah.
Or if you look at it from like Nick's main perspective of like the supernatural component of it, then it's really like ominous, almost like there's nothing. I know it's still coming for me.
Yeah.
So
it's that tiger in the cage.
Mm-hmm. Right. So how you interpret it, I think, is kind of cool. It could either be hopeful or like a bad omen, or like foreboding, like there's something else coming.
And true. And like I'm a big fan, like shocker, I like my films ending as a downer. So like that kind of works into it and stuff like that. But
I think each movie has to end in a way that is successful for the movie. I don't like, and I'm like this with books too. I hate neatly clean stuff. If it makes sense for a storyline, whether that's negative or positive, fucking end it there. Like, leave it like that.
Yeah.
Stop wrapping stuff up with a happily ever after or something that's going to pacify your viewers or your readers, all because they're going to be sad at the end. Or if you need it to be happy ending, then and it fits with the narrative, then do it. But yeah, this movie works really well because it doesn't do that. But then we've had other movies that kind of end in like a neutral sense, or in a like Scream ends well. Like, but then obviously that's a series that I think you can build on, and apparently it works successfully. So like, I think it just depends. I like Scream too. I thought that movie was great. So
the first one's better.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Really?
Okay. This podcast is over.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, only because I rewatched it recently and I was like, I remember liking the second one better, and I watched the second one again. The second one is way scarier than the first one.
Yeah, I get with that.
Okay.
And
because it is more violent and stuff.
It is. And it's a lot more intense because you already know this stuff exists. So like, now you're living in a world where this exists. It's not just being introduced. So I love the first movie a lot because I think it really builds into this storyline. But the second one definitely has more of that like creepy, ominous factor more than the first one does for whatever reason. I can't explain it. I don't know why. But then the third one, I haven't rewatched it in years since I was probably a teenager. But from what I remember, it was shitty. So I am going to rewatch it sometime, but we'll see. We'll find out. But yeah, sequels sometimes work better. Well, like Avatar, it's equal, honey. So.
How do I mute her? How do I mute her while she's talking?
Okay, if we're gonna talk about Avatar for a hot second, the second one visually is so amazing. The storyline is essentially the same.
It is. I agree.
It's Ferngully. It's just Ferngully. Each of them.
That's where like the second one isn't the greatest because you're just reiterating stuff you've already talked about in a different way. True.
I mean, I think the best thing when we're talking about movies and books and all of this here is that when you're living in a world like this, like Pandora and this, or like even Star Wars and stuff, you're in a actual submersive world. It's not just one book, just one movie. It's people putting those together in a way that makes you want to keep consuming them, and not kind of being that nasty lull in the middle, or like, really, did this really come out? I'm not watching the next movie, or I'm not reading the next book because this was just highly disappointing. But like George R.R. Martin and his fucking Game of Thrones, there's going to be supposedly like 7 books or whatever it is, but eventually he'll get there.
He'll never finish that series. He's not putting that last book out.
Well, no, there was just something on the news, that he had released a statement about it. I haven't read it yet because I'm just like, I'm not listening to this. It's been fucking forever. But yeah, it's kind of the same concept. So.
All right.
Let's give our ratings.
Yeah, let's get our ratings and let these people go. Let these people go home. Yeah. So I'll just go ahead. I'll just make mine short and sweet and everything. I like this movie. I'm actually, now that I know who David Buckner is and what he's done, I do like his movies, because if you like this, or it's entertaining enough or whatever, I definitely suggest checking out The Ritual. The Ritual is his best movie, I think.
I want to see that.
But that aside, visually, the movie's good. Pacing, it's a little slow. But like the second half of the movie like really picks up, but the first half's kind of slow. It's only an hour and 45 minutes. It definitely sets a mood. I think it's a good movie to watch with another person or whatever, so you can talk afterwards like we just did and everything. All that being said, I'm giving this movie a 7.25.
Okay.
That's where I'm sitting at, because I was just kind of like, is it here? It's like, it's still a good one. I'm gonna watch it again. I'm definitely, I told Noelle to check it out and everything. So we actually ended up having to rent this because they just took it off of like Hulu, where it was at for the longest time. So we ended up having to rent it. But I think that if I can get it on sale, I think I might add this one to the collection.
I think it'd be a good one. I think it's recommendable. Like, I think people would really probably, if they like this kind of stuff, they would like, it would work for them if they like slower movies with a build.
Yep. All right.
Okay, Tasha.
Okay. I wanted to really like this movie. Talking about it, I want to go. First off, I need to watch it in one sitting.
Yes,
that's
you
the
do.
biggest thing.
Yes,
and I think I'm going to start factoring in whether or not I can stay awake for the movie into my review, because I just watched Harriet, which is a movie about Harriet Tubman. It's over 2 hours long. I watched it at night, and I was able to stay up for the whole thing.
Okay.
Save for 5 or so minutes.
Oh my God, you still fell asleep.
But I fell asleep, but I woke back up and I finished it. So, like, I know now I am fully capable of staying awake for a movie in the evening. The pacing was really hard for me, clearly. But like going back and like learning more about it, I like it more than when I watched it. And I'm taking this off of me watching it. And I always give my review or give my score to Drew right afterwards. And that's what I'm sticking with. And I'm giving it a 4.5.
Ooh.
Very low.
That was low. Yeah. That's lower than I thought you were going to give it.
Yeah. Yeah, like mainly because like some of the scenes I feel like were kind of throwaway scenes, like the girls jumping off the cliff. Like I said, talking about it more, I would give it a higher score. But just going in and watching it, this is what I'm giving it. Mm-hmm. That part, the kind of fight scene with nothing was just, it didn't resonate with me. I love Rebecca Hall, so I'm glad that she was in it. Otherwise, I think I would have given it an even lower score. So I'm going with a 4.5.
Damn.
Okay, yeah, that's lower than I thought. Okay, yeah, but I do think factoring in if you can stay awake or not is a good measure, because you watched The Void and you stayed awake through all of that, didn't you? Yeah, so obviously that movie definitely kept your attention. And that movie does have a few smaller, like, not very slow bits, but it has a few moments. And, like, yeah, that makes sense. So I think
and to not only fall asleep, like, once, I fell asleep in the middle of the day watching it.
Yeah.
Like, I watched it this morning and still fell asleep. So, yeah, that's becoming a factor now.
I think that's fair, because, like, if... there's only one movie we watched, and I've mentioned this 900 times, of that it was the most boring fucking thing we've ever watched.
The Exorcist? But
yeah. How did you guess? I mean,
I don't know. It was just a hunch. I don't know. I know.
So my rating on this last night, when we finished watching it, I usually write down my star rating, and then after we talk about things, I kind of evaluate, like, I guess I heard somebody recently talking about, like, are you a steward when it comes to your rating? Or are you just immediate, like, do you give your rating immediately? And I like to take both things into consideration. But I think I'm gonna stick with my original rating, only because I liked it so much, but I didn't love it. So I'm gonna go with a 7. I feel like that's fair for how I view movies, and I didn't fall asleep during this, so that was good. And I actually wasn't like putting my head down or writing in my notes like I'm about to fall asleep or that this is boring. I was riveted watching it, but it wasn't scary, like, at all. Like, this movie was a horror movie, but it wasn't a scary horror movie. So yeah, that would be my my rating.
So what does that give us, Tasha?
A fail, I'm guessing.
I don't think so.
I do.
A 63. That's a D, I think.
Is it? Okay.
Well, we're going past fail on the 50.
Oh, is that what we're doing now?
Yeah, that's how I look at it. It's like,
okay,
it's a, like, pass fail. So it's a
6
good
out of
movie.
10.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Once you cross that 75, that's where it's like, whether this is your taste, whether it's your taste or not, like, you have to watch that. But this one, it's not going to be for everyone. But, like, I think you'll get more hits than misses for this movie.
I agree. I'm curious to see if our children watch this, and if they do, if they're going to be like, this was the dumbest thing we've ever watched and I fell asleep, or if they're like, man, that was so good. I have a feeling, because they're teenagers, they're going to be like, I didn't get it.
It was boring. It was boring. Where were the tits?
Yeah.
I was promised tits, damn it.
I know.
All right. So movie club time. So, hey, how's it going? Welcome to Movie Club. How you doing? I hope your holidays have been good. You know, right now we're ramping up towards Christmas. This is I believe
what
this.
Are you doing?
Well, shut up and you'll hear.
Okay.
I believe
he's long-winded, Tasha.
I believe
Yeah,
I believe this comes out like the first week of December. So we're going to be ramping up into the holiday spirit. And because of that, oh my God, it's almost like this was a fucking segue, Tasha. Because of that,
long.
Yes.
Next week we will be watching Gremlins.
Yay!
So we'll be watching Joe Dante's Gremlins from the 80s at some point, whatever fucking year it is. I haven't researched it.
I'm so nervous to watch that again. I have not seen that again since I was a child, and it may be great and it may be horrible. We will find out, I guess.
I watched
I think it's gonna be good.
I watched it for its 30th anniversary in theaters. Like they re-released it in theaters. I got to watch it then. So I already know. I've seen this movie a shit ton. So it's one of those, I grew up watching it a lot. So
it used to scare the shit out of me as a kid. So I'm like, I am so nervous to watch it I'm not gonna be scared now, obviously. Like, ooh, no, I'm not gonna be scared.
I just don't remember ever being scared. So
I don't know what it was. I don't know.
I never thought of it as a horror film. Like it's one of those things. And then people are just
apparently I did.
Film.
Yeah, people are like, it's a holiday horror film. Like, since fucking when? Like I've never seen it, but it is. So guess what?
Is it because of the Gremlins?
Yeah, well, because they look
like Gremlins.
Well, people are getting attacked and like there's blood and stuff. And well, not the Gremlins. The Mogwai.
Gizmo. Yeah.
Gizmo the Mogwai is. The Gremlins. Oh my God.
Spike. I mean, Spike was cool. Yeah. It was cool.
He's cool. He's got a leather jacket and a moped. I mean, fuck.
He's a cool guy.
You know, if Spike talks to me, right, I might let him bed me after prom. Who knows? So.
And on that note,
for Pot of the Dead, I'm Nicholas.
I'm Stephanie.
I'm Natasha.
Come back and listen to us, or else.